It's hard to find a game that has brought a historical era back to life quite like Red Dead Redemption 2 did. And this isn't just a game about shootouts and cowboys, it's really a journey into the final days of the American Wild West. A world slowly dying before the eyes of the people who lived in it. But to understand that world, we need to go back first to 1803. Yes, I know, it's a bit crazy, it's a bit of a stretch, but it will help us to understand the background of the game. You see, at this time, the United States of America, a newly independent country, purchased the vast Louisiana territory from Napoleon's France in a deal known as the Louisiana Purchase. Overnight, the country's size doubled, opening millions of acres of unexplored land to explorers, hunters, gold prospectors, and outlaws. Over the following decades, the western frontier became the symbol of freedom and adventure. Yet, it was also known as a land of conflict and savagery, where Native American tribes, outlaw gangs, and relentless pursuit gave birth to the legend of the Wild West. By 1899, however, the year in which Red Dead Redemption 2 takes place, that legendary era was drawing in its final breath. The government was expanding its control, railroads stretched across the continent, and civilization reached lands that had once been ruled by only the gun of an outlaw. And as the world changed around them, the Vanderlyn gang, in the storyline of the game, found themselves fighting to survive in a time that no longer had a place for men like them. And this is where our journey begins, in the frozen mountains of Amberino. So welcome everyone. Today we are kicking off a brand new series looking back at one of the greatest video games of all time. And today we're gonna be discussing its opening. Chapter 1 of the Red Dead Redemption 2 universe, titled Colter. So whether you are playing it for the first time or looking back years later, Chapter 1 sets a masterclass in tone, atmosphere, and storytelling. But before we talk about the freezing cold, we have to talk about the absolute chaos that brought this gang to these mountains. When you boot up Red Dead Redemption 2, you don't start with the heroic introduction that all stories usually start with. You start instead in the middle of a disaster, a tragedy. So the gang is half frozen, starving, and mourning. But why are they running? So if you pay close attention to the dialogue in camp and Arthur's journal, you piece together the infamous Blackwater ferry robbery. Dutch Vanderlyn and Micah Bell caught wind of a boat carrying thousands of dollars in bank money. And against the advice of Hosea, the gang's voice of reason, Dutch decided to go for it. Arthur and Hosea instead weren't even there. They were busy working on a different, smaller lead. And the heist was an absolute trap. The Pinkerton National Detective Agency swarmed them. And in the bloody chaos, they started a fight with a guy named Linde Crickets or something like that, and Dutch did something completely out of character.
You were there, Javier. What really happened on that boat?
We had the money, it seemed fine. Then suddenly they were everywhere.
Bounty hunters?
No, Pinkertons. It was crazy. Raining bullets. Dutch killed a girl in a bad way. But it was a bad situation.
That ain't like him, though.
He shot an innocent girl named Heidi McCourt in the head. The gang barely escaped into the Grizzly Mountains, leaving all their stolen cash behind, hidden in Blackwater. Worst yet, they actually lost members. Davy Callender dies right as Chapter 1 opens. His brother Mac was left behind and captured, and we will see that in Chapter 2. and a young gang member named Jenny Kirk was killed during the escape. When we first land in Colter, an abandoned mining town, the gang isn't just hiding from the law. They are hiding from the death of their own dream. Chapter 1 is incredibly linear, functioning as a beautiful narrative driving tutorial. It forces you to feel the sluggish, heavy weight of surviving a winter wasteland. Over the course of 6 core missions, Rockstar perfectly introduces the mechanics through the story. First, in Outlaws from the West, we ride out with Dutch to find food, and while we are trying to do that, we meet Micah, and playing for the first time as our main protagonist, Arthur Morgan. While we are trying to find shelter or food or whatever, we discover an O'Driscoll homestead. So this introduces us to the main rival gang of the Dutch Vanderling gang, which are the O'Driscolls, and also it introduces combat and how to hitch your horse, and unlocks the trusty Kettleman revolver, which is the default gun of Arthur Morgan. And through all of that, it also introduces us to Sadie Adler, whose life has just been shattered by the O'Driscolls, who killed her husband and held her captive for days, and God knows what they done to her. The O'Driscolls, like I said, they are the rival gang of the Vanderling gang, and from what we know at the start, their leader, Colm O'Driscoll, was a friend with Dutch. Next in Enter, pursued by a memory, John Marston, who is the main protagonist of the second game, which is actually the first game, who was launched back in 2013 or 2011, I don't remember really quite well. So he is missing in this game at the start. And Arthur and Javier ride out to find him bleeding out of a mountain peak. Attacked by wolves, this mission unlocks the sawed-off shotgun, and cleverly explains how John got his iconic facial scars. Then we have Old Friends and the Aftermath of Genesis. These 2 missions let the player choose the order, which is actually a common theme throughout this game. You can actually choose the order of which to play all these missions. One has you hunting a deer with Charles, who is injured from his hands, and unlocks the bow and the game's massive animal, Compodium. The other one has you launching a primitive offensive on the O'Driscoll camp. From an info we knew by interrogating an O'Driscoll in the start of the game, in this mission, Dutch tells us that he and Colm go way back.
Some things I can forgive, others I can't forget. What he did to Annabelle, I can't do neither. You killed his brother, Dutch. Yes, I did. And I hope the bastards will be reunited soon enough. That's how this'll end.
Dutch killed Colm's brother, and Colm killed Annabelle, a woman that Dutch was in love with. But against all odds, Dutch decides to let Colm go, and simply the gang eviscerates the remaining O'Driscolls in the camp. In this mission though, you unlock the legendary Deadeye mechanic. And before capturing a low-level O'Driscoll named Kieran Duffy, we learn that Colm and his gang are planning to rob a train. This leads us to the mission titled Who the Hell is Leviticus Cornwall, which is the climax of the chapter. To fund their escape from the mountains, Dutch decides to rob a train belonging to the multi-millionaire oil tycoon Leviticus Cornwall.
I just don't want any more folks to die, Dutch.
We're living, Hosea, we're living. Look at me. We're living, even you. But we need money. Everything we has in Blackwater. You fancy heading back there?
No. Listen, Dutch, I ain't trying to undermine you. I just want to stick to the plan, which was to lie low, then head back out west. Now, suddenly we're about to rob a train.
What choice have we got?
Leviticus Cornwall's no joke, Dutch.
Who is Leviticus Cornwall?
He's a big railway magnate, sugar dealer, oil man.
Well, how good for him. Sounds like he has more than enough to share.
Dutch!
Gentlemen, it is time to make something of ourselves. Get your horses ready. We have a train to rob!
which is something that Hosea highly objects on. But Dutch doesn't listen, and he wants just to get out of the mountains. This mission is an explosive mission that unlocks dynamite and sets a massive target on the gang's back for the rest of the game. Finally, eastward Bound wraps it up, and the snow finally melts, and the wagons are packed, and the gang heads down into the Green Valley of New Heartlands. This ends the chapter, and we start the second chapter.